What is going on, guys? My name is Steve. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to show me, tell me questions that happened during a UK driving test. Now, I really don't know much about show me, tell me questions. I just recently heard about show me, tell me questions being a thing on the video I just did maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago about what happens during a UK practical driving test. And it really didn't go into too much detail about exactly what the show me, tell me questions are, but I kind of got a general idea of what they are, I think. Basically, I think it's pretty self-explanatory that the show me, tell me questions are one component of it is basically the driving instructor or the examiner, whatever you want to call this person that's riding with you, basically ask you to show them something. They ask a question and you're supposed to show them something. And the other is basically they ask you questions and you're supposed to tell them something. And so while that is pretty self-explanatory, I want to know more about what exactly these questions are and what you're having to do, because if I'm not mistaken, you have to go under the hood sometimes and show them different things, maybe tell them what a part is or something. I'm really not completely sure exactly what the show me, tell me questions are. I just have a general idea of what I think they are. So I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of explore this a little bit further, because I think this is a pretty important part of the UK practical driving test, and because I want to know the ins and outs of what's going on with getting a license in the UK and just driving in general, because this is a topic I really enjoy, I thought this would be a really cool topic to explore next. And because we don't have anything like this in the US, at least from when I got my license. And, I think my nephew just got a license maybe 5 years or so ago, and he didn't have to do with this either. So I think this is something completely different that you guys do in the UK that we don't do at all in the US, if I'm not mistaken. So anyways, guys, I guess enough rambling from me. Let's go ahead and jump in and check out the show me, tell me questions that you might experience during a UK driving test.
Today we're going through all the show me, tell me questions, also known as the vehicle safety questions.
Vehicle safety questions.
The examiner will ask you one tell me question at the beginning of the driving test before you start driving, where you'd have to explain how you'd carry out a safety task. You'll also be asked one show me question, where you'd actually have to show the examiner how you'd carry out a safety task while you're driving. The show me.
Okay, so far I'm getting that this isn't like a bunch of different questions. This is one tell me question and one show me question. At least it's what it sounds like he's saying here. And is that all you only basically get these 2 questions that are the show me, tell me questions throughout the entire driving test, or do they ask you some more questions at the end or something like that as well?
The question can be asked at any time during your test, including the independent driving part. If you get one or both questions wrong, then you won't fail your test, but you'd get one driving fault, or a minor as they're commonly called.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the full answers and demonstrations using this Ford Puma, which is currently one of the UK's best-selling cars. So let's get started. Firstly, how to open the bonnet. There's 3 questions you might get asked that involve you having to open the bonnet.
Open the hood. Okay.
I'm using a Ford Puma, but a lot of cars are similar. To open the bonnet of this car, there's a catch, just here on the passenger side. Pull that. Then go around to the front of the car, and to the left of centre, there's another catch. Just push that to the right and hold it as you start to lift the bonnet. Pull the bonnet stay up, into the hole, and make sure it's secure. Question number 1. Open the bonnet and tell me how you check that the engine has sufficient oil.
Okay,
Now,
so that's a tell me question, right?
This is a tell me question.
Yeah, okay.
You wouldn't have to physically do anything apart from open the bonnet, point at the dipstick, and explain to the examiner what I'm going to show you.
Okay.
You'd pull the dipstick out. It'll be covered in oil. So you'd get a cloth, wipe all the oil off, put it back in, pull it back out, and it will leave an oily mark on the dipstick between the minimum and maximum markers. If it needs oil, then it goes in here. Open the bonnet and tell me how you'd check that the engine has sufficient engine coolant. The engine coolant is just here. Check it down the side. The level should be between the maximum and minimum markings. You'd open this only when it's cold to top it up. Never open it when it's hot, as it could be dangerous. Open the bonnet and tell me how you check that you have a safe level of hydraulic brake fluid. The brake fluid reservoir is just here. It has a little circle on the top in between brackets. You can check it down the side. The brake fluid should be between the maximum and minimum markings.
Okay, so far, I'm getting that. I don't know if that's all I guess that's not all the tell me questions they could possibly ask you. So they're only asking you one. And so they're just going to basically, sounds like they basically want to know that you know how to do some minimum maintenance and basically be able to check your fluids and things like that. That makes sense to me. I think most people probably, they now on newer cars, they generally get oil changes and stuff, from a shop or something like that. But it's still good to know that type of thing. I used to change my oil and do all that stuff for a very long time. Now, I usually just get it done at a shop. It's more convenient, and it basically doesn't even cost any extra here to do that. It costs more to actually do it yourself at this point, pretty much. But okay, so that's interesting. So basically, they want to know, the tell me questions are, okay, you know how to basically understand a little bit about the fluids and stuff like that to make sure that you kind of know that you can look at the fluids and stuff and know that your car is in good working order, basically.
To close the bonnet, lift it slightly as you pull the bonnet stay out of the hole. Push it back into the clip.
I would think most people probably would easily
mind
pass
your fingers
this.
As you can drop the bonnet just before it's fully closed. Let's have a look at all the other tell me questions that you might be asked.
There are more.
Tell me how you check that the brakes are working before starting a journey. Now this is a tell me question, but again, I'm going to show you it just to help you remember. Tell the examiner that you would drive forward slowly, press the foot brake, and it shouldn't feel spongy or slack. Also, the car shouldn't pull to one side. Tell me where you'd find the information for the recommended tyre pressures for this car and how tyre pressures should be checked. Tell the examiner that you would check and adjust all the tyres, including the spare tyre when they're cold, with an air pressure gauge. And don't forget to refit the valve caps after. Tyre pressure information can sometimes be found in the car manual,
Or on the side of the door,
or
right?
there could be a sticker on either the driver's or passenger's door pillar. Tell me how you make sure your head restraint is correctly adjusted so it provides
Oh,
the best
wow. I hadn't even thought
protection
about
in the
that one.
event of a
That was
crash.
interesting.
The head restraint should be adjusted so the rigid part is at least as high as your eye.
I've never even thought about that.
Ears, and as close to the back of your head as comfortable. If you do need to adjust it, there's a little button at the base of the head restraint that you can press and then move the head restraint up or down. Tell me how you check the tyres to ensure that they have sufficient tread depth and that their general condition is safe to use on the road. You would check all the tyres with a tread depth gauge. The tread depth should be no less than 1.6 millimeters across the central 3/4 breadth of the tyre. You check this all the way around the tyre.
Well, when you go get your annual test on your car, or your MOT test, right? Can't remember what that stands for. But when you go get that test, they would check your tires to make sure they would be pretty good for the next year, right? I'm guessing that they would. So, yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I'm thinking that you guys would probably always have pretty good tires because you go get that inspection on a regular basis.
There also shouldn't be any cuts or bulges on the outside.
Of course, you never know what's going to happen over the course of a
Tell
year.
me
So
how you check that the headlights and tail lights are working. You don't need to exit the vehicle. This is a tell me question, but to help you remember it, I'm going to demonstrate what you'd tell the examiner. You'd turn the ignition on, turn this once to the left for the dipped headlights, and then you'd walk around the car to check that the headlights and tail lights are working. Tell me how you'd know if there was a problem with your anti-lock braking system, or ABS for short. You'd tell the examiner that if there was a fault, this ABS warning light would stay on when you start the car. Tell me how you'd check the direction indicators are working. You don't need to exit the vehicle. Tell the examiner that you'd press the hazard warning lights button. It's identified by this red triangle. Then you'd walk around the car to make sure all 6 indicators are working. Tell me how you check the brake lights are working on this car. Another tell me question. Tell the examiner that you would press the foot brake and either see reflections in windows or a garage door, or you can ask someone to help and check the brake lights are working. Tell me how you'd check the power assisted steering is working before starting a journey. Again, I'm going to demonstrate what you'd tell the examiner. To check it's working, I can give the steering a little pressure as I start the engine. There's slight movement as the power steering begins to operate, so I know it's working. Also, as soon as you move off, you'll feel the steering is light to turn and not heavy. Tell me how you'd switch on the rear fog light and explain when you'd use it. You don't need to exit the vehicle. Tell the examiner that you would use the rear fog light when visibility is less than 100 meters. To turn on the rear fog light, you would firstly need to turn on the ignition, turn on the dipped headlights, and then press this button here for the rear fog light. Tell the examiner that you know it's on because you would see this warning light on the dashboard. Don't forget to switch them off once conditions have improved. Tell me how you switch your headlight from dipped to main beam and explain how you'd know the main beam is on. Tell the examiner that you'd have to turn on the ignition, then turn on the dipped headlights, then push this stalk towards the dashboard for the main beam. And tell the examiner that this blue warning light shows that the main beam is on.
Wow. Okay. So tell me questions. It could be any of what sounds to be 14. So knowing that, you basically just need to know these general things about safety and maintenance with your car. And I think that's good for everybody. You know, I would hope most people in the US would also know those things, even though we don't get these tell me questions asked to us during a driving test. But they're just good to know. You need to know these things. Like, I mean, you need to know how to check your oil. You need to know how to check your air pressure and things like that. And it's always good to know that your brake lights are working and stuff like that. So I think this is good. I like the fact, though. I do like the fact, though, that it's a minor fault. They're not going to fail you if you mess up, because some of these things, like, I'm looking at them and some of them are so simple that you may, if you weren't expecting it, you would actually be shocked on like how someone's asking you a question that is so simple, like, or at least to me, like how to check your tire pressure, or something like that. You know, you would think this would be something that would be really simple to understand, right? And so I don't know. That's interesting. But I do think this is a good idea. I think it's a good thing. I think this will be a great thing to add to U.S. driving tests, because everybody should know these minor things. You know, everybody should know how to do. I mean, how to check your brake lights. I mean, like everybody should know how to do that. But this is wild. So I'm really surprised, Lo, to see that this type of thing is asked, even though I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, anyway, let's go ahead and see what I guess we're going to find out what show me questions are.
That's all the tell me questions. We're now going to have a look at all the show me questions.
Wow, that's beautiful.
You'll be asked one of these while driving. But if you're unsure how to do it when driving on the test,
that didn't look like a road.
The examiner will ask you
now it
to
does.
pull up on the left when it's safe and convenient.
Wow.
And ask you to find the control. It's a good idea to get familiar with where the controls are and how to use them before you try it when driving. Let's go through each of the show me questions. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you wash and clean the rear windscreen? Let's have a look at where the control is before driving. It's just here. Look for this symbol. To use it, push it away from you towards the dashboard and hold it as long as necessary to wash the rear windscreen. The rear wiper turns on and off automatically. You'll be asked this question when driving, but just like all the other show me questions, only demonstrate it when it's safe and there's not much going on.
I get why that's a show me question, because you actually need to do it, but it's almost like a tell me question too, because it's like it's the same type of thing, right? You're a safety issue there, or how to clean your window. I mean, wow. I mean, I would think people would pass that. I can't imagine many people like they don't know how to use their don't know how to clean their windows, the windscreen.
When it's
People call
safe
it
to
windshield,
do so,
but
can you show me how you wash and clean the front windscreen? The control for this is on the same stalk as the rear windscreen washer. This time you'll have to pull it towards you. Hold it as long as necessary to wash the front windscreen. The wipers turn on and off automatically. Only use it when it's safe, as it might be hard to see out of the windscreen for a second. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you'd switch on your dipped headlights? The switch for the dipped headlights is just down here.
dipped
Turn
headlights.
it once to the left.
What's a dipped
to turn them
headlight?
on.
Dipped headlight.
This light on the dashboard shows they're on. Then turn it back once to the right for automatic headlights.
What is a dipped headlight? I've never heard that term before. Dipped headlight. Trying to think of what that means. I have no idea what that means, guys. It's probably something we also have on a car. I just have no idea what. We probably have a different term for it. Let me know in the comments, guys. What is a dipped headlight? Because I have no idea what that is.
When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you'd set the rear demister? The
rear
demister controls
demister.
are all here.
What's the?
This button is for the rear demister.
Oh,
Press
oh.
it to turn it on.
We call it the
Don't
defroster.
forget to turn it off by pressing it again.
Okay, demister.
When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you'd operate the horn? This is where the horn
Wait, what?
is. When there aren't any other road users nearby, just press it. When it's safe.
Wait, that's seriously a question? How to beep the horn? I mean, like, come on, man. There's no way people fail that. Like, seriously, there's no way people, out of every question I've heard, that is the absolute one that I would expect no one to fail if they got. I'm surprised that is a question, because I would expect everybody to know that. Like that one. I can understand some of the others, like, you know, some people that aren't familiar with cars may have trouble understanding how to check their fluids or something like that a little bit. But, you know, after maybe, 20 minutes explaining it, everybody should know how to do that stuff, right? But, and even something to turn on your demister, maybe in a new car, someone hadn't quite understood that. But I don't care what car you're in, you would think everybody would generally know how to beep the horn. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. But that was interesting.
If to do so, can you show me how you demist the front windscreen? Don't forget, all the demister controls are here. To demist the front windscreen, press this button to direct air onto it. That's a good demonstration for the driving test, and don't forget to switch it back off after. But if the windscreen is extremely misted up, then press this max button. If your car doesn't have a max button, then direct air on the front windscreen again, turn the fan up, and the temperature, and turn on the air conditioning. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you'd open and close the side window?
Really?
The controls are on the driver's door.
What?
The button on the right is for the driver's window.
No.
Press it down to fully open a window.
Are you serious?
Pull it up to close the window.
Come on, man.
Again, only do it when it's safe, and try not to look at the controls when driving.
Wait. What? Okay. Okay. All right, guys. This was really interesting, and I'm glad I checked this video out. I think you did a great job of explaining exactly what the show me, tell me questions are. Let me know, guys. Did he cover all the show me, tell me questions that are possible to get on your test? And so basically, I now understand that you guys have one tell me question and one show me question during your driving test. And although you won't necessarily fail your test by getting one of these wrong, it's going to give you like a, what do you call it? A minor, was it a minor infraction or whatever, where basically you get a certain number of those points throughout your driving test and you're going to fail. So you obviously want to pass these because it means you're getting one less point. But most of these I generally think will be good questions to ask people. I can appreciate this. I think it's, I think it's a good idea. I mean, because again, it's not going to fail someone if they get it wrong necessarily, but it knowing that you've got these coming, it makes people prepare for this. And so when they come into their driving test, they're going to know more about the maintenance and the safety surrounding driving in their vehicle. They're going to know how to demist, or what we would call defog or defrost their windshield and their or what you guys call the windscreen and their back windshield, whatever you call that, the back window. Know how to check the air pressure, know how to, different things like that. It makes a lot of sense. And I think this would be good to add to a U.S. driving exam. A couple of these, though, I'm like, really? How to beep the horn? Come on, man. Come on. Everybody's got to know how to beep a horn. Know how to roll up and down the window? Okay, those are just kind of like, I personally don't understand why those are in there. I would feel like those would be self-explanatory. I feel like my daughter, she's 5 years old. She knows how to roll up and down a window, knows how to beep a horn. You know what I mean? It's like, I just think that's something that everybody would know. I don't know how anybody could ever ride in a car before and not know how to do that. Granted, if you've never been in a car, I guess that's, yeah. But otherwise, I just don't understand those questions. But the others made a lot of sense to me. If your windshield or your windscreen is really foggy, you're going to have a hard time seeing out of it. You need to make sure you know how to do that, because if you're new to driving and you haven't never done that before, then that could be an issue when you're out driving. All of a sudden, it fogs up and you haven't learned that. So that is something that is good to learn, and all that stuff is. Again, guys, I think this is great. I think this is something that we should all have in our driving exams. And but I will say again, I will stress that I like the fact that these little questions aren't necessarily going to fail you, but they'll get you prepared for these things, because knowing they're coming, you're likely to study for them, and you're likely to learn how to check your fluids and check your tire pressure and to know the ins and outs and the workings of your vehicle. And that's always going to be a good thing. That's always going to be great, not only for the safety of your vehicle, but just in people around you, safety of you and people around you, but also just in general, it's going to help you retain your car longer by knowing, a little bit about maintenance and stuff like that. So yeah, this is really cool. I'm surprised though. One thing I'm surprised though about is that I'm surprised they only have one show me, tell me question. I think it would be interesting if they did multiple of these questions to kind of gauge you across the board on different aspects of the safety and maintenance. I think they would call this all safety. I would generally say some of this is more maintenance than safety, but anyway, it's still a really good thing to know. But yeah, guys, I really enjoyed this. I love the driving topic. I want to continue learning more about driving within the UK. I also want to learn about driving in Ireland, but I think that is probably pretty similar in a lot of ways to what we're learning here. But like I said, I love this topic. So if you have anything you think I might want to check out about, whether it's something more about the driving test itself or other topics about driving in general in the UK or Ireland, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I love your recommendations. Thank you so much for stopping by, guys. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow me on my journey to discover my British and Irish ancestry. Till next time, guys. Peace.